Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about how I quit smoking and why, and if that is interesting at all to you, please stick around. Maybe it will help you out too. I thought I'd give you a bit of a backstory on how I got into it in the first place when I was younger and sort of tell you how long it's been. Back when I was around 14 years old, I went to a party. It was an interesting time to say the least. I just had heart surgery twice in 1 year and both hadn't worked.
Wow.
And my parents were going through a divorce. So it was all these sort of accumulation of things. One thing led to another. I've ended up at this party and sort of feeling quite low in myself anyway. And so what I did was I sort of gave up all my morals. Everyone else was around the same age and they were all doing it. So I thought, what could possibly be the harm in doing it once? Subsequently, it was the one night that I got drunk properly for the first time. I took a class A drug. I smoked weed and I smoked a cigarette all in one evening. So I just crammed it all into one event. So I'm going to get into now why I quit smoking. Obviously, weed has a really good rep, especially in the modern times that we are in now. People are finding the benefits of weed, and that is a wonderful thing. But I do honestly think that sometimes that can be heavily misconstrued. The reason I wanted to quit was because I hadn't realized how much weed had changed me. I'm also talking about cigarettes. I did quit both, but mainly the thing that I was fixated on was weed. And it sort of followed. So you'll see what I mean. Just feeling super demotivated. I really didn't want to ever work. I didn't want to get up and go anywhere. I never wanted to go for a walk. And essentially, I just stopped being sort of myself. I hadn't realized that at the time. I thought I was just super chill. I was using it to sort of suppress any emotions, any bad things that happened in my life. Yeah, I guess we use things as a crutch to sort of suppress the things that we don't want to feel and think. And so I was definitely doing that with weed. I just smoked it every day.
Smoke weed every day.
It got into such a habit, and I'd been smoking it for like nearly 10 years. So the main thing that really made me realize that I was going downhill was that I stopped eating. A lot of people say when you smoke weed, you get really hungry. And I definitely think that is the case for people who do it in moderation. And also, when you first sort of begin smoking, it definitely has that effect. But I think over time, you eat less and less. I'd always prioritize smoking over food. And it started getting really unhealthy and I lost a lot of weight. I don't know if you've ever heard of cannabinoid syndrome, I think it is. I'll put it up here on the screen. I definitely started having that. It was a crazy thing to experience, and I was in full denial that that was what was happening to me. Definitely something that happens when you overuse weed, basically. Your body starts sort of shutting down when you smoked. You feel really sick and you become really nauseous, and it has like all these negative effects. And not only mentally was I struggling from the effects of long-term use of weed, but now I was definitely feeling it physically. I started throwing up like every day in 2022 and it was getting super unhealthy. I would try to like pawn it off onto IBS, onto mental health, but I knew deep down that the root cause was weed. And I do feel like if you overuse to that extent, it will happen to everyone. Maybe not, but like I think it's more than likely that it is going to have adverse effects if you overuse. So, how did I quit? I quit by using a few different nicotine replacement therapy sort of items. And even though it wasn't nicotine that I was obsessed with, like inhaling and everything, really it came down to the fact that I was mixing my weed with my cigarette, and so I like needed to cut out cigarettes in order to cut out weed, if you know what I mean. And they both went hand in hand. And to be honest, actually, when I first started like quitting, I thought to myself I was just going to quit nicotine. I was still in denial to that extent that I thought I'm just going to quit smoking cigarettes. That's really bad for you. I can carry on smoking weed. It's all fine. When actually, really, I needed to quit both. And I'm glad I did. I just unintentionally did it. I do think a lot of it is mental strength, like tricking your brain to thinking you can have a spliff anytime, you can have a cigarette anytime. It's also psychological. So I used nicotine patches and a Nicorette inhaler. So it's like this little white thing. I called it a tampon because it kind of looks like a tampon. So anytime I felt like I was craving, needing like that drag of something, I was having this little inhaler, and it did help so much. I don't think you realize when you smoke weed and mix it with tobacco how dependent on the tobacco you are until you try and take the tobacco away. So these nicotine therapy thingy-majigs were so essential in my quitting journey. Not only that, but I had to boss it. I had to force myself to do it. And you've really just got to think to yourself that it's such a temporary madness that you go through in that time. But once you're over that, it does go away, which is just so hard to fathom as someone who's done that for like almost half their life. If you do something for half your life, you just think there is no way I'll ever be able to stop doing that. But there is such opportunity. You just hear these success stories and you're like, how is that even possible? Like, no, they must be completely different than me. It's just not the case. You can do it. If I can do it, honestly, you can do it. I was one of the heaviest weed smokers I knew. I was constantly rolling another one. It was constant. Coming up to what side effects did I endure and what was it really like quitting? I think this was one of the things that I was the most worried about with weed because it's obviously an illegal drug here in England. It's so hard to know what the withdrawal symptoms are going to be like. We don't have any research here. It's like, it seems a very scary and daunting process, and you're really on your own. Quitting weed is not something that the NHS promotes. Like, they don't promote smoking it, but they also do not promote quitting. They don't give you any guidance or help. This is why I'm sort of making this video more orientated around weed quitting, because there's so much help out there if you want to quit smoking cigarettes. But if you want to quit smoking weed, then there isn't that much help out there. And that was what I always really struggled to get over, that milestone of sort of thinking, well, I would know I should quit. I know that that's the best thing for me, but how? Like, there's no how. There's all these excuses, like one after the other. It just keeps coming. This is how I felt when I was coming off weed. Obviously, everyone's experience is unique, but I'm also on sertraline antidepressant. So that could also have a part to play in how I withdrew. So my withdrawal symptoms were really intense and hard in the first week. And that week goes so slow, but so fast at the same time. Looking back on it now, it seems like it was just a flash in the pan. But basically, if you're a woman, it basically feels like you're really hormonal. I think it's more of the emotional and mental struggle that you're trying to get over rather than the physical one. But you do have physical symptoms such as sort of night sweats, feeling like you've got a cold and a cough, headachy. Oh my god, the headaches were unbearable. I did get a lot of headaches when I think back on it, and the night sweats were just insane. But then again, that could also be because I was on antidepressants. It is so hard to know what was what. So yeah, night sweats was my main symptom of withdrawing. I just had to keep like a pile of 3 or 4 t-shirts by the side of my bed. It sounds so gross, but I would sweat so much in the middle of my sleep, and then I just like had to take it off, change t-shirt, and then go back to bed, because it was so frequent that if you just got up and changed the sheets, it would just happen again. So you just sort of have to boss that bit out. But really all that is your body sweating out all of the toxins and stuff that you put in your body. You just got to see it in a nice light, in a way like, wow, my body is taking this out. I'm getting healthier by the minute. Put the most positive spin on it that you can. It's kind of phenomenal who you think you are and then who you are after you quit smoking a drug like weed, because it's not obviously a class A drug, but it's also still very mind altering, and you just don't believe it is when you smoke it. You think that you're the same person, you think that's who you are, and the person that you become after you put that down and just focus on who you really are at the heart of everything is just a different person. And it was like I was having to learn myself again. It was so strange. Like, I remember just thinking, I don't even recognize myself from last week. It just blew my mind that that was who I was for that long of my life, and then it just sort of switched and I was a different person. But yeah, other than that, my side effects did subside after time. Like, I'd say 7 to 10 days, and you're pretty much there. As soon as you've got to that point, you can quit. Best thing that you can probably do is stay away from people that smoke. If you can stay away from those people, you're going to give yourself the best opportunity to actually fully quit. So yeah, that is like sort of my rundown on what my experience was like. I'm so proud and glad that I did that at the start of the year. Basically, the differences that I've felt in 10 months have been phenomenal, to be honest. I'm so impressed with myself. The main thing I do just want to touch on last is just a sentence or two that would have helped me so much when I was considering or even thinking about quitting smoking weed. And that is that nothing is going to happen. Literally, nothing's going to happen. When you think I'm running out of weed, the urgency that your brain does, that is just your dependence on that thing. Nothing is going to happen. You're not going to die. You're not going to pass out. You're not going to keel over and never breathe again. Like, you can do it. And it is just, that is the like hardest thing I think about dependence, is when you've got that sort of like crackhead vibe about you that you need more. And I think that's just the most scary thing about drugs in general, is that you sort of try and pretend that's not what's happening, but it is your dependence and your addiction to substance abuse. Sucks to hear, it sucks to take in, it sucks to even consider that's what you're going through. But once you're on the other end, you'll be so proud that you've come out and you've been strong enough to do this all by yourself, especially if you're in England. Like, we just don't have help for this. So hopefully it will help one person, this video, and maybe you'll consider quitting if you haven't already. And just know that there is a healthier and happier version out there of you, and you don't need anything to suppress your feelings. Your feelings aren't that scary. I am the most emotional and uncontrollable emotional person ever, and trust me, it isn't that bad. You are here to feel your feelings, and you can't numb them forever. So do what's best for you. Obviously, if you can smoke weed in moderation like a normal person, then it's fucking brilliant for you. Do what you need to do. No judgment if that is what you do. Obviously, I did it for 10 years, but I thought I could really do with this video when I used to search up things that I'm sort of talking about now. So maybe it will help someone. I don't know. I think that is it. I'm sure if you guys have any questions or anyone is wondering anything, just please drop it in the comments below. Goodbye. I'm losing my mind.
Missing someone.